The fry that started it all, the military cafeteria was packed with noise and movement. Trays clanged, boots thudded, and dozens of young cadets shouted across tables. Humans and aliens trained under one roof now, but they still kept to their own corners. They didn't mix, didn't talk, and definitely didn't share meals. Jack sat alone, as usual, with a tray of hot fries in front of him. He dipped one in sauce, took a bite, and looked around without much interest. That's when he saw her. The alien girl stood near the wall. Her back straight, her hands at her sides. She wore the standard uniform, but it didn't fit her right. Her skin was grayish-blue, smooth like polished stone. Her eyes were large and violet, and they scanned the room like she didn't belong there. No tray, no food, just hunger in her stare. Jack watched her for a moment. Other cadets pretended she didn't exist. Some whispered and laughed. Others moved their trays farther away. She didn't flinch. She just stood still, like a statue. Until her gaze landed on Jack. They locked eyes. Jack didn't know why. But he picked up a fry and held it up high. He gave a small nod, then pointed to the empty seat across from him. The alien girl tilted her head, curious. Then, slowly, she walked over. Her movement was graceful, like a wild cat, every step precise. She stopped at the edge of the table and stared at the fry in his hand. Jack raised it again. "Go on," he said. "Try it." She leaned in, sniffed it, then gently took it with 2 fingers. Her mouth opened, just enough to place the fry on her tongue. Then she chewed. Her eyes widened. She blinked. Then blinked again. A soft, surprised sound came from her throat, like a hum. Then she reached for another fry. Slowly, carefully, as if testing his reaction, Jack chuckled, sliding the tray closer to the middle of the table. "Help yourself," he said. "I'm Jack." She said nothing, just continued eating the fries. One by one, she didn't gulp them, she savored them, as if they were treasure. Around them, other cadets had started to stare. One big human recruit named Bren crossed behind Jack, brushing against his chair hard enough to jolt him forward. Before Jack could speak, a low, deep growl echoed from across the table. The alien girl was on her feet, eyes glowing brighter, teeth bared slightly. Her growl was sharp, animalistic, a warning. Bren froze, turned, and stared. The entire table went quiet. Jack quickly raised his hand. "Whoa, it's okay," he said. "No harm done." She didn't move, but her eyes stayed locked on Bren until he backed away slowly. The growl faded, but the tension didn't. Jack swallowed, unsure if he should be afraid or honored. She sat back down and resumed eating, but slower this time. Jack gave a nervous laugh. "You really like fries, huh?" She paused, then nodded once, very slowly. Jack smiled, trying to ignore the whispers building around them. Later that day, during drills, Jack noticed her again. She stood near the edge of the training field, watching him. Her name wasn't on the roll call, but she was always nearby. He waved once, and she nodded again. By dinner. She was already waiting at the table before Jack arrived. She had her own tray this time, but her eyes still drifted to his fries. He pushed them toward her without a word. She didn't smile, but she gave a small, quiet sound almost like a purr. A group of human cadets walked past and glanced at her. One of them whispered something rude, and another laughed. She stiffened, her shoulders rising, but Jack gently touched her hand. "It's fine," he said. "Ignore them." She relaxed a little, but kept watching the cadets as they left. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her, how she hadn't spoken a word, yet said so much. About the way she guarded him like a wolf guarding its den. About that growl, and how everything changed the moment he shared his fries. He didn't know her name, or her rank, he didn't know her story, but something told him that from now on, he wasn't alone anymore, and anyone who tried to come between them might hear that growl again, marked by a growl the next morning. Jack arrived at the training yard early. He stretched, yawned, and turned to see her already there. Zaratha name printed on her file, though he still hadn't heard her speak. She stood near the edge of the grounds, watching him like a silent shadow. When the sergeant called everyone to form up, she didn't join the line. She stayed where she was, eyes scanning the other cadets. Jack kept sneaking glances at her. She didn't blink much, didn't move much either, drill after drill. She never looked tired, even during hand-to-hand sparring. She watched without expression. But when Jack's opponent shoved him too hard during a practice throw, Zara took one step forward, just one, but enough to make everyone notice. The sergeant shouted, "You alien girl, stay back." Zara froze. nodded once, and didn't move again. Jack gave her a quick thumbs up as if to say he was fine. She didn't return the gesture. But she stayed still the rest of the session. At lunch, she appeared behind him in the food line. She didn't say a word, just waited until he got his tray. Then followed him to the same table as before. They sat, side by side, and shared fries again. It became routine. Jack trained. Zara watched. Jack ate. Zara shared. Jack laughed. Zara growled at anyone who came too close. People started calling her his pet protector or alien shadow. Some joked, others sounded annoyed. But no one dared push Jack around anymore, not after what happened in the drone bay. The drones were malfunctioning that day. During Jack's turn, one of them spun wildly and struck him on the arm. He grunted and stumbled back, holding his elbow. Before anyone else moved, Zara let out a sharp cry and launched herself across the room. She hit the drone midair and slammed it into the wall. Alarms blared, metal cracked, sparks flew. Zara crouched over Jack, chest heaving, growling like a cornered beast. Security had to pull her back with stun fields. The medics checked Jack and cleared him quickly, but the officers focused on Zara. She's unstable, one said. She's dangerous, said another. Jack argued. She saved me. She overreacted. A commander replied, this is a training facility, not a battlefield. Jack clenched his fists. You treat her like a bomb, but maybe you're the ones lighting the fuse. They didn't respond, but Zara was placed under observation. That night, Jack wasn't allowed to see her. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Everything felt off without her presence nearby, like something important was missing. The next morning, she wasn't at breakfast. He ate quietly, pushing his fries around the tray, when a fellow cadet, Myra, asked if she could sit with him. Jack nodded, but before she could place her tray down, a loud thud hit the floor beside them. Zara, standing straight as ever, had returned. She said nothing, but she stepped between Jack and Mira and gave a low growl. Mira froze, then backed away. Wide-eyed Jack sighed. Zara, that's not how we treat people. Zara turned her head slightly, eyes still sharp, but then she looked at him, and her expression softened. She sat down, picked a fry off his tray, and leaned against his shoulder. It was the first time she had shown any sign of comfort. The whole cafeteria watched in stunned silence. Later, in the halls, Jack found himself surrounded by curious whispers. Why does she follow you? What did you do to her? Is she even allowed to be that close? Jack didn't have the answers. He only knew one thing: Zara had decided he was hers. Maybe it was a Zell rebond. Maybe it was loyalty. Or maybe it was just the fries. He didn't mind. She made him feel safe. Like nothing bad could happen if she was nearby. And though he'd never say it out loud, he felt safer with her than anyone else. At night, he sat in the courtyard under the stars. Zara stood behind him as always, quiet and alert. Jack turned around and offered her the last fry from his pocket. She took it without hesitation, chewed it slowly, then finally spoke. You gave food, she said, voice deep and unfamiliar. Jack blinked, surprised. Yeah, he replied. I guess I did. Zara nodded once and whispered. You are mine now. Jack laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke or a promise, but when he saw her eyes glowing gently in the moonlight, he realized she wasn't joking. She doesn't share. Jack had never been the center of attention before. Now, everywhere he went, people either whispered behind his back or gave him a wide space to pass. Zara followed him like a second shadow, silent but watchful. She didn't smile, didn't talk, but the message in her eyes was always the same. Do not touch him. During physical drills, Jack was assigned a partner. When a new cadet named Rion grabbed Jack's arm too roughly, Zara reacted instantly. She stepped forward, let out a short, sharp growl, and the room froze. Even the sergeant stopped mid-command. Zara, stand down, Jack said gently. Her eyes locked onto Rion. Unblinking, Jack touched her hand slowly, and her posture softened. But the message was clear to everyone. She didn't like anyone touching him, not even during training. The instructors weren't sure how to handle it. She's disrupting discipline, one of them said. She's protecting her bonded unit, said the alien liaison officer. Jack just shook his head. She's just being herself. Later that week, the high command called Jack in for a meeting. 3 officers sat at the table, their faces serious. We need to discuss the Zellari girl, said the captain. Jack stayed calm. Her name's Zara. She's showing signs of aggression, territorial behavior, and emotional bonding, one officer explained. It's unnatural, another added. Jack frowned. Unnatural for who? For humans, the captain said. This isn't how partnerships work in our system. She's not from your system, Jack replied. She's Zellery. The room went quiet. Jack stood up. She's never hurt me, never disobeyed a direct order, and never started a fight, but she has saved my life. The officers exchanged glances. But they didn't argue. After the meeting, Jack went straight to the medical wing. Zara was sitting on the floor, her legs crossed, her back straight. When she saw him, her face changed, a slight softening in her sharp features. He knelt beside her and held out his hand. She took it, without a word. Were they mean to you? Jack asked. No, she said, but I do not like cages. Jack chuckled. Me neither. He pulled something from his Pokita tiny white box. She tilted her head, curious. He opened it to reveal a fresh batch of fries from the kitchen. Still warm, Zara's eyes sparkled. They sat there on the floor, eating quietly. A nurse peeked in and quickly backed out again. Jack leaned closer. They're scared of you. You? No, good, Zara said, biting into a fry. The next day, something unexpected happened. During lunch, Jack's old friend Mira tried once again to sit beside him. Jack smiled and moved his tray slightly to make room, but before Myra could sit, Zara blocked the bench with her leg. Myra's a friend, Jack said softly. Zara growled, not loud, but deep enough to freeze Myra mid-step. Jack sighed. Zara, please. Zara leaned in close and whispered, one word. No. Mira raised her hands. It's okay, Jack. Maybe later. She turned and walked away, confused but unharmed. Jack stared at Zara, unsure what to say. She just returned to eating. Calm as ever. That night, Jack brought it up again. You know you scared Mira off. Zara looked at him. She tried to take my place. Jack blinked. She just wanted to sit down. Zara shook her head slowly. She wanted you. Jack didn't know what to say. Zara leaned in closer, her voice softer now. In my culture, when you feed someone before yourself, it means you offer your bond. Jack's mouth opened slightly. I just gave you fries, and I accepted, she said. Now I guard what is mine. Jack felt warmth rise in his chest, mixed with confusion. He hadn't planned any of this, but somehow, it had happened anyway. Back in the cafeteria, people had stopped asking questions. Zara sat beside Jack, like always. No one else dared to sit near them anymore. Some called her his guardian. Others said she was more like a jealous mate. Jack didn't correct them. He just smiled, shared his fries, and let her stay close. Whatever she was, protector, partner, or something else, he didn't feel alone anymore. Not with that growl guarding him. And from that day on, there was an unspoken rule. Jack's fries weren't just food anymore. They were a promise, one Zara would never let anyone else touch.